The Democratic Alliance will in an hour announce its new leader, after which that person will make an acceptance speech. More than 2,000 delegates attending the party's virtual Federal Congress have voted for the party's leader. DA interim leader John Steenhuisen and the party's member of the KwaZulu-Natal Legislature Mbali Ntuli competed for the position. Now let's cross back to our reporter Natasha Piri. Natasha, as we count down to that time, 2:20 this afternoon, what's the latest? What have you got for us?
Definitely, Desiree, in less than, what time is it now? In less than 57 minutes, South Africans and DA members will know, I beg your pardon, who their new leader will be, Desiree. I can tell you that people are actually waiting with bated breath, but for some who have said that they've predicted that John Steenhuisen will actually be the leader of the Democratic Alliance. And just perhaps to just, scale in on those two candidates and to remind our viewers who they are. We have Mbali Ntuli, who's 32 years of age. She's been serving within the DA for 14 years. She was a former DA youth leader, and she is currently a member of legislature in KZN. Of course, she's worked her way up through the ranks of the party. Her campaign was was themed kind, fair and strong, and she had said that if she was elected, or if she is to be elected as DA leader, she would then bring vibrancy to the Democratic Alliance. She says that she wants a disruptive way of politics. She wants to change the status quo, not only in the party, but in South African politics as well. And she says that it's time for young people to take over the reins of the Democratic Alliance. I mean, she's done quite a deal of work, quite a lot of work within her province. She's reached through to people in the villages, in the rural areas, in suburban areas, and actually worked and contributed to the growth of the party in that particular province. We also look at John Steenhuisen, who's also from KZN. He's 44 years old and he's been in the DA for approximately about 22 years now. He has also served within the DA and, worked through the ranks of the party as well. He joined the DA at a tender age. He worked from being a councillor, I beg your pardon, then working himself up to be a caucus leader within the KZN legislature and being the leader of the province as well. He then worked himself up into national politics, into the National Assembly of the DA, and under Mmusi Maimani's tenure was then the chief whip, and last year in October he was named elected as the DA interim leader when Mmusi Maimane left. So these are the two candidates that are going up against each other. Others say it's a case of David and Goliath going up against each other. Others would say it's the old guard versus the new guard, and be quite interesting to see, Desiree, who actually takes over the realms of that top position of the party. I mean, I heard you earlier on speaking to a political analyst, and quite some interesting analysis coming out of that conversation that you had with him. He had said that it was interesting to see how the DA will position itself after this elective Congress, and how after the party, I beg your pardon, will position itself after the new leader is elected, more especially because the DA has had so many challenges last year. I mean, in his report back to the party earlier on this morning, we heard John Steenhuisen conceding that the party didn't do so well last year, regardless of the fact that, it lost quite a number of votes, and about 20, it had reached 20.77% as opposed to its previous figures of over 23% in the previous national elections. There's also the issue of infighting within the party, internal squabbles, and what John Steenhuisen had called, members of the DA leaking information out to the media. There's also the issue of policy uncertainty, especially when it comes to issues of race relations within the party. So these are some of the things that the DA actually has a mammoth task of dealing with. But also, I mean, looking back at these two candidates, some say that if John Steenhuisen does indeed win as federal leader of the party, it'll be a question on how many votes did he get and what margin did he actually get in terms of votes, Desiree. But also quite interestingly, so yesterday my KZN colleagues had spoken to both candidates, both Ntuli and Steenhuisen, and both candidates had expressed and said that, listen, if they don't win, they won't be disappointed, because, I mean, they all put up a formidable campaign, both of them, and they basically saying that if they don't win, they will still be members of the DA and they will still work in their respective roles, whether it would be John Steenhuisen, who goes under the campaign of the hashtag John Vuligate Challenge, or Mbali Ntuli, who is whose campaign is free, kind and fair. So, I mean, the moment of truth is not so far away from us right now. We will know who will emerge victorious from those positions.
Natasha, because voting closed at around 6 p.m. yesterday, there's probably already a sense of who the victor is. Have you been able to get some word?
Definitely, Desiree. So voting did close at 6 p.m. yesterday, but we were told that earlier on today those votes were actually being counted. But I suppose and I expect that that voting counting process has actually concluded. But as you say, I mean, a lot of people are predicting that John Steenhuisen has, actually won, or will be elected, rather, so to speak, as the DA federal leader. Earlier on, I'd spoken to you and I'd said that I sent out a tweet asking people on social media who they think will be named as the DA federal leader, and most of them had said John Steenhuisen. Others had said that it wouldn't be wise for us to actually count our chickens before they hatch. It could work in any favor. It could be Mbali Ntuli. Others have said that she's still young, she's inexperienced, she hasn't had an experience in national politics, and if elected as the DA federal chairperson, it would be throwing her into the deep end. But I mean, you look at a case in point of previous, leaders before her, the likes of Musi Maimane as well, not having much experience, but actually, having an opportunity to become the DA federal leader. So it could actually work in both ways, people saying that it's time the DA elect a different type of leader, and Mbali Ntuli would actually chart a new way forward in terms of that. Some say that, she embodies or signifies, equality for all within the country. And if elected as a new DA leader, it would be quite a new way of politics, introducing a new way of politics within the country. So dissenting views there, Desiree, not only from analysts, but also, the general public here on social media. I've spoken to some DA members, earlier on off the record, some saying, listen, they would love to see Mbali Ntuli as their new leader, but of course some expecting that actually won't happen. I spoke to various political analysts in regards to this elective conference earlier on this week, and they had said that Mbali Ntuli doesn't actually command the branches or the vote of the branches on the ground. Instead, John Steenhuisen has. I mean, just looking throughout his campaign, he had opted to actually physically go to nearly all 9 provinces of South Africa, engaging with DA members and trying to persuade them to actually vote for him and his campaign, saying that he will unite DA members, he will unite South Africans through his campaign, saying that the DA is the only vehicle for change within the country. He'd also come out strongly saying that he wants to deal with the toxic culture and the culture of ill discipline within the party, of leaking information to the media, openly criticizing the DA out in the public, instead of raising those issues within the party itself. So it's quite interesting, gauging people's different views. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And 2 o'clock is just around the corner, Desiree. So my appeal to all those who are watching is that you should stay tuned to SABC News, as of course we will give you all the latest updates in regards to the story.
Of course, absolutely. But just in terms of the position of the chairperson of the Federal Council, Professor Kotze was saying that Mike Moriarty stands no chance against Helen Zille. Are you of the same view?
Well, Desiree, the position of Federal Council chairperson is one that is very important. I mean, this position actually has to do with the day-to-day dealings of the party, administrative work, and ensuring that, the organization actually runs smoothly, the day-to-day proceedings of the organization actually runs smoothly. Now, we look at these two candidates, Desiree. You have Mike Moriarty, who's a DA chief whip, also a tried and tested member of the DA, and you have Helen Zille, who actually is an incumbent in this position, and Helen Zille was the former leader of the DA, so quite experienced as well, quite tried and tested member of the Democratic Alliance. But it seems as if I would agree with the professor. I mean, she commands more support within the Democratic Alliance than Mike Moriarty. But I mean, things could sway either way. I mean, Helen Zille, as you know, Desiree, is somewhat of a controversial figure. She's been landing in hot water time and time again because of her tweets on social media. We've then seen members of the DA, wanting her to actually face the music for those tweets that she sent out in terms of the party's internal processes and taking her to the legal department of the party. I'm sorry, just the name won't come to me right now, but I mean, she had to go through such processes. I mean, for other people within the DA, they could say it's time that the DA have a different Federal Council leader in the form of Mike Moriarty, but only time will tell. But I mean, just looking at Helen Zille as well, Desiree, a lot of DA members some DA members had put in the blame at her doorstep. If you'll remember properly, the reason why Herman Mashaba had left the DA was because Helen Zille actually returned to the party. And I remember he had said last year that, listen, if Helen Zille comes back as the Federal Council chairperson or to the DA, he will then leave. And indeed, he actually stuck to his promises. He resigned in early October, as the mayor of Johannesburg, and subsequently left the Democratic Alliance to actually form his own party, which is called Action SA. And I mean, that party is also quite interesting because most of its members actually come from the Democratic Alliance. You've got the likes of John Moody, who's joined the party. I'm not so sure if they're trying to campaign for Nkele Molapo, who was dismissed by the DA not so long ago, to actually join her party. But I mean, you've got some DA staff that's also there, the likes of Michael Bowman, who played a crucial role within the Democratic Alliance. So it's a quite interesting debate. It's quite interesting to see which other positions are actually up for grabs. Just to remind the viewers there, the positions of Deputy Federal Chairperson are also up for grabs, and the position of Finance Chairperson is also up for grabs. So not only will we see the announcement of the federal leader of the party, but also other positions as well.
I'm going to ask you to just hold on to your thoughts there, but don't go away. We asked our viewers to call in on 0787994480, and Patrick Mabizela is calling us now from Soweto. Patrick, a very good afternoon. Thank you so much for calling through. What's on your mind about the Democratic Alliance Congress?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I just want, firstly, I would like to congratulate the DA for the successful conference. And secondly, it should be luck for them if they can get maybe a black leader, because that it will help them to close the crack that we saw last year when we saw those lots of leaders, especially the black ones, they seem to be from the DA.
Are you a party member?
No, I'm not a party member.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm an IFP member. I was just putting the contribution 2 days today.
Wow, it's interesting that you're an IFP member and you're watching developments in the DA. What are your thoughts about how these kind of conferences and the decisions they take, how they will impact the South African citizen on the ground?
No, the way I saw it looks like as if it's going well and it's fine, but the thing that it should be good, if they can have a lot to get the black leader, because that it will help them to close the crack that it's been happening, as we saw, the most of the black leaders were left. It will help them there.
Yeah. Let me just ask you, as an IFP member, what are your thoughts about the fortunes of this party, especially since they have new leadership now? What are your thoughts about the fortunes of the IFP, especially with new leadership now and approaching elections next year?
Especially to the IFP, it's very good for us because it makes us come together. Because you remember before, normally our leader, it was the king. So you know that the way people they see the king, it differs from the leader that is not a king. The leader that is not a king, everybody they're not scared, they're just free. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but because if you're a leader, you got a huge dignity. They're not just be free as like a normal person as you got now the leader that you got at SABC.
Well, let's thank you for calling us this afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much.
Patrick Mabizela there, coming from Soweto. Natasha, interesting there that members of different parties interested in machinations within the Democratic Alliance.
Definitely, Desiree. I mean, this is a huge issue of interest, a huge story of interest as well, because, I mean, as you know, that the Democratic Alliance is the official opposition party within the country. So one would actually expect such interest coming from the broader public, not only ordinary citizens, but other members of, other political parties. I mean, earlier on, we spoke about the issue of if the ANC or other political parties had actually weighed in on this matter. Haven't seen something from the ANC, but I've seen something from the EFF. Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi wishing Mbali Ntuli well, and around 30 minutes ago, Mr. Hlengwa, who's a spokesperson, the national spokesperson of the IFP, saying that him and Mbali Ntuli, despite their political differences, him being in the IFP, Mbali Ntuli being in the DA, he had said that Mbali Ntuli is a close friend of his, and had actually wished her well with today. We've also seen EFF leader Julius Malema earlier on this week saying that he predicts that John Steenhuisen will actually win as the DA leader, and this will, according to him, show that the DA will only consolidate its white racist votes, as he says, within the party. So a lot of people quite interesting in the developments of today and the outcomes at 2:00. So I guess we're around 20 minutes or 40 minutes away from knowing who the federal leader of the DA will be, Desiree.
I'm going to ask you not to leave, but we're going to take a call from Thembelani Buthelezi from KZN. Thembelani, sawubona bhuti kunjani? Hi Thembelani, you're live on air. What are your thoughts today about the ongoings of the Democratic Alliance?
Hello.
Sawubona bhuti kunjani? Thembelani? I can hear him, but he can't hear us. We're going to perhaps just encourage him to call back again.
No.
Thembelani?
I will try to connect me again.
Natasha, let's bring you back in again. Evidently, as you can see, quite some interest as people keep calling in and people want to tell us what their thoughts are. So there's obviously interest in this story.
Definitely, and it's quite unfortunate that we can't speak to Thembelani right now. I was actually looking forward to hearing what he had to say and looking forward to hear his expectations out of the conference. And this is as we count down, Desiree, to 2:00, where I suppose Ivan Meyer, the federal chairperson of the party, will be announcing who out of Mbali Ntuli or John Steenhuisen will be, the federal leader of the Democratic Alliance. Alliance, Desiree. But I mean, right now, I suppose that they're actually concluding the resolutions that were actually debated and being discussed. Resolutions such as crime, resolutions such as the outlaw of cadre deployment, farm murders, of which we spoke to earlier on, cutting the public sector wage bill to help stabilize public finances, and the protection and expansion of private property rights to ensure sustainable, land reform. So for those who just tuned in right now, we're all waiting and counting with bated breath for that announcement that will take place at 2 o'clock. The Democratic Alliance is expected to announce its federal leader, who will become its federal leader anytime from now.
Yeah, of course, those resolutions you were talking about will keep their representatives in Parliament very busy as soon as the conference is concluded, Natasha. All right, I have a sense that Natasha...
I'm sorry, Desiree, could you please repeat your question?
I was just saying that the different resolutions that they've been talking about this morning, obviously at the close of conference, that moves to their representatives in Parliament, who will try and ensure that those resolutions become law, so keeping their representatives quite busy.
Definitely, Desiree, keeping their representatives, not only their representatives, members of the media, quite busy. As you understand, Desiree, I mean, the DA has its own way of doing things as opposed to other political parties. I mean, for us as journalists, this is the first of its kind. It's a virtual elective conference. Everything actually happens online, and things are actually running back to back. As I'm speaking to you right now, there's a press briefing that's actually currently underway. And of course, with that process, I suppose that members of the DA are rounding up the discussions around the resolutions which have been passed. And of course, we're all at the same time waiting for that announcement at 2 o'clock. So there's so many things actually happening all at once. And this is, of course, all virtually as well. So first of its kind experience, I think, for us journalists. I myself prefer being out at the story, catching engaging the mood of the conference. But it's quite difficult if you're doing it stationed here from the office on the second floor, of which this is just exactly my workstation where I'm working from. So I just had to do everything virtually from one station, and just gauging the mood here online is quite interesting, Desiree. I mean, as opposed to going to an actual conference where you could see people brokering and making last-minute deals, other people trying to persuade, other delegates for voting for their own preferred candidate of choice. So Natasha, these are just our experiences as journalists.
Sorry, I once again have to cut you short there, but we have to go back to the event. Leolo Mpiti of the Democratic Alliance Student Organization is giving their report.
This is why we partnered up with the Program of Young Politicians of Africa, where we've already sent over 10 young people in the past 2 years to receive training, to receive education, and to learn how to mobilize communities on the ground. These young leaders were able to receive 10,000 Rand per financial year to ensure that they start community projects in their communities, and these community projects have been fundamentally successful. It gives me great pleasure to announce that the DA Youth has officially become a member organization of the International Federation of Liberal Youth. This has been such an important partnership for the DA Youth because we've been able to start sharing ideas with other liberal organizations across the world and to start to understand how exactly can young people drive a liberal agenda in our countries. We've also now started a partnership where we'll be sending young people in the DA Youth overseas to Sweden and having an exchange program with these liberal youth organizations to ensure that we continue to build capacity and strong liberal thinkers in our country. Democrats, it was very important for us as the DA Youth leadership to ensure that we actually had a youth policy. This is why last year the DA Youth leadership took part in a tour across the country, meeting with structures, provinces, and ensuring that we could get their voice in how we need to establish and bring about a youth policy for the DA Youth. This was for the first time that the DA Youth was able to put together a youth policy that spoke directly to the issues of young people. We were able to look at the economic challenges that young people face and to table this youth policy at the policy conference of the DA this year. Democrats, what we know is that we need innovative ideas. We need change-driven ideas that will ensure tangible solutions for young people in this country. And this policy process ensured that we were able to start looking at different areas of increasing and working in the economy to ensure that young people had a voice. In these past 2 years, we've launched 3 successful youth campaigns. We started out with Youth Unemployment Has a Face. This campaign was about understanding the fact that behind the statistics are young people who continuously every day have no dignity, have no jobs, have no opportunities. So it was important for us in this campaign to be able to articulate that there are people who live this every single day. We wanted to emphasize that the state, the private sector and civil society can work together creatively, innovatively to ensure that there are ideas on the table where young people are able to move their lives forward, get a job and be able to work. It was important for us to also speak to local government, and this is why the DA Youth came to the Western Cape and we visited youth cafes to see the DA difference, because it is this DA difference that needs to be transferred to all other provinces, where we give young people the opportunity to be able to connect to the internet, look for jobs, connect for online classes, and be able to do something with themselves. This campaign resulted in a nationwide door-to-door campaign across provinces where we mobilized young people around the idea that unemployment is unacceptable. Unemployment is, in fact, corruption. We need young people to have opportunities in this country. We need young people to be able to ensure that they can live and support their families. And so when we launched this campaign, as you can see in the slide, we had little coverage. But we knew that we needed an aggressive approach. We knew that we needed to aggressively fight for the space and contend for the space. And this is why when we launched the Sidikiwe campaign, we saw the fruits of this aggressiveness. Sidikiwe was our second campaign, which speaks to we are tired. We understood that young people were saying to us, we are angry, we are tired of speaking and never seeing action. Effectively, young people were saying, we have had enough. So what we said was, it was very important for us to articulate the issues that young people face at universities, at schools, at workplaces, trying to start a business. How is it that this government has failed young people on different facets? That's why we then spoke directly to the issue of providing tangible solutions, that we need more support for the informal sector, that we need young entrepreneurs to be able to find jobs, that we need young people to know that when they go study and graduate, that they will be able to find a job in this country. We also understood that it was enough that young people with master's degrees, honors degrees, technical degrees and qualifications were finding themselves applying for entry-level jobs. Having a master's student applying for a PA position is something that just shows how rife and how unequal our education and our country is. So with this campaign, we branched out across all provinces, went door to door to all communities, to young people, to schools, to churches, to drive this message that the young people are ready to take over if we are not given the opportunity to do so. And there are no credible opportunities that government has laid ahead. If you look at the slide, you'll see a dramatic increase in our voter interactions, our media hits, because we understood we needed to be aggressive. We needed to be the voice of young people in a time that young people found themselves to not be heard. You'll see that we branched out aggressively within our media approach to ensure that no youth conversation happened without the DA Youth. And I can assure you, Democrats, there was no youth discussion without the DA Youth. Democrats, we then had the Youth Hustle Continues, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with that particular campaign because we launched it in June. And this campaign was fundamentally important because we understood if we are saying as young people, sidikiwe, we are tired, we also understood that we had to create and bring hope, that young people have all the tools that they need in their hands to be able to start any business, to be able to start any innovation idea, and that we can change our future if we roll up our sleeves and get to work. And when we launched the Youth Hustle Continues, we launched it in a climate where 2 million jobs were lost, where young people were increasingly becoming economically inactive. And we wanted to highlight, very importantly, that young people across this country continue to face the issues of a government that is unresponsive. Together with the COVID pandemic, we realized the importance of issues like data amongst young people. We realized the importance of relief funds, particularly for young entrepreneurs who didn't have support. And this is why we proposed tangible solutions in Parliament as well as in our communities to ensure that government understood that we had a plan. This is why, Democrats, we spoke about the re-stimulation of the employment tax incentives, because we understood that young people need to gain skills, they need to gain experience, they need to have the opportunity to have a shot. And we asked government, ensure that you re-stimulate the employment tax incentives, give young people between the ages of 18 to 29 an opportunity to upgrade their skills, to upgrade their knowledge so that they can become more employable. We also found it very important to speak directly to young entrepreneurs in the informal sector who continue to not receive support from government because they are not formalized. And what we know is that a huge amount of our GDP is made from the informal sector. So we understand that we need more support for young entrepreneurs, ekasi, who are trying to get their business off the ground, who just need a network of people who can assist them. And this is why we spoke directly to the issue of the CIPC and the role it plays for young entrepreneurs and how it can assist entrepreneurs who look for them to support. Democrats, when we started this term, we understood that we needed to build our membership, that we needed to have foot soldiers on the ground, that we needed to be those people who were going to reach every area, whether it was the suburbs, whether it was the townships, whether it was the rural areas. Every single part of South Africa needed to know who the DA youth is. And this is why, Democrats, we've increased our membership by thousands of people who have joined us in the fight for our constitution, joined us in the fight for rule of law, joined us in the fight of non-racialism to ensure that indeed in this society, young people will have an opportunity to succeed. That never again will a young person be born in South Africa and fear that they might never work a day in their lives. That never again will a young person feel that they cannot provide for their families. That never again will young people feel like they are unable to make an impact. We understood that we needed to roll up our sleeves and get to work. And that is what we did, Democrats. I want to thank each and every senior leader who in very difficult times and challenging times ensured that they were there for the dear youth. They stood with us as young people. They stood and advised us and gave us guidance. I'd like to thank Thomas Walters, who's been invaluable in his guidance and support to the dear youth. But most importantly, I want to say to young people in this party that yes, we will make mistakes. We will have challenges. But what matters is how we back each other up, how we stand for each other, because indeed, we are the only people in this country that have this future to fight for. We now need to stand and rise and know that the foundation has been laid and the only way to go is up. Thank you, Democrats.
Democrats. I am Dr. Noma French Mbombo, the DA Women's Network Federal Leader, DAWN, which is an ancillary organization of the DA, which was established to mobilize women in support of the DA and provide an enabling environment for women to engage in politics. Our vision is to create a political home for all women across South Africa, and our mission is to increase the voter footprint of the Democratic Alliance. We identify and promote issues relating to women and gender in South Africa, as well as developing programs which will add value to the lives of South Africans. The role of DAWN is to ensure that women of all races and ages have equal access to opportunities, and we provide support to the upcoming leaders. The purpose is to assist all women to build and maintain strong networks locally, nationally, internationally for access to education, justice, health, jobs, and community opportunities. In the past year, DA Women's Network vigorously campaigned against women exploitation. We have led the campaign against the sex for jobs. For example, in the 2019 elections, that's where we have been all over. We bravely call out institutions and individuals who were exploiting women. We have advocated for victim support centers in each police station, which is a campaign that is continuing. In my oversight inspection throughout the country, I noticed that very little is done to support victims of abuse. This has led us to develop policies and identify ways that the police can create an environment that is conducive to supporting GBV victims. And before the COVID-19 pandemic, DAWN was actively running workshops aimed at empowering women for leadership positions within the party. This purpose is to ensure that we completely shatter the glass ceiling and make way for women to leadership positions. When we started actually in 2018 and when we were elected, we made sure we contribute to the party's sexual harassment policy, which was approved by the Federal Council. Just like this year, we submitted a GBVF strategic framework so that the party can use as a footprint on how to deal with the issues of the gender-based violence. In 2019, actually, during the provincial and the national elections, we contributed to the manifesto that talks about the gender inequalities, tackling issues of the LGBTQI communities, sex workers, and also the gender-based violence across. DAWN stands ready to influence the policies of our country and make sure that we speak to the experience of every woman in our country. There is no denying that poverty has a face of a woman. They are the bottom of the food chain in terms of access to the economy. This became very clear in the recent COVID pandemic. Women were the hardest hit by the retrenchments. Not only that, they were the victims of the GBVF. Because of this, DAWN feel strongly about gender equality within the economic activity in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5 that talks about achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. As such, DAWN played a key role in the development of the economic justice draft policy within the DA. Some recommendations there include, but are not limited to, where you have to help the families to remain together by prioritizing in urban housing policy, implement strict measures to ensure that fathers pay maintenance, that is the papgeld, to introduce the shared parental leave in order to help equalize childcare responsibilities for working professionals. So it is crucial that we go out to the communities, to the branches, to the constituencies, to every anti-Sarah, to create awareness about these DA policies and DA principles, the DA values, so that going to 2021 elections, we have got the footprint throughout. So that's why now in the upcoming months, where the country is busy, or the DA is busy with the internal elections, for us we'll be preparing the DAWN to make sure that when the time that there's a federal Congress, everyone is ready, because we have to empower each other. No woman should be left behind. It is important for us to be part of the table. Thank you very much, and I wish you a successful Congress.
Well, there you have it, the Women's Network presenting their report, and also the youth through Leolo Mpiti there saying government has no credible opportunities for youth, hasn't laid out any plans. And I think we're going to go back to our callers now. We asked you to call us on 0787994480. And as I promised at the beginning of the hour, that would be joined by Thabiso Sithole to take us through with this broadcast. Thabiso, quite interesting outcomes coming out of the Democratic Alliance Congress, but of course the big announcement we're awaiting at 2:20.
Indeed, that we're going to pick up at 2:20. But just coming back to the two speakers, the reports we just saw, you mentioned Leolo Mpiti, the DA Youth report, speaking about having a master's student applying for a PA position. That's possibly one of the biggest, concerns of most children now. In particular, now you've got matriculants who writing exams, I think, beginning tomorrow, if not next week sometime. So there's quite a lot, in particular the youth are looking forward to, with all political parties, not just necessarily the ruling party, the DA or the EFF. The question is, though, are we voting with regards to, what political parties are offering, or are we saying, look, I'm going to vote for the party that my grandfather voted for? Is it sentimental voting, or is it policies? Because that is what a lot of youth in particular are saying.
Absolutely. We made that call to our viewers to call in to tell us what their thoughts are. We have Tembelani Butelezi, who's been trying to call for quite a while now. Tembelani, a very good afternoon to you. You're calling from KwaZulu-Natal. What are your thoughts about developments within the Democratic Alliance?
Yes, if you see Mbali Ntuli, she is very, very brilliant. If you see his strategies of winning this position, because if you notice, he mentioned that he mentioned youth and also those people who've got a problem. She said they will fix the problem of youth in terms of education and people who live in rural areas. The question is, I've heard your analysis a few minutes ago or hours ago. He said Mr. John Steenhuisen is gonna make it. Yes, if you see it, some of the people in this country, they have that perception of the Democratic Alliance. They are more dominant of white people. But if you see Mbali Ntuli, she is one of the person who gonna make it, because she made their their research about people of KZN also, because she was also a member of the Democratic Alliance for 14 years. It means she will win it. 50% chances she will do it.
Tembelani, you're speaking to Tabi, so quick question to you. You from KwaZulu-Natal yourself. This is a race basically from two leaders who are from the Democratic Alliance, and both of them hail from their province. So what is your thought, being in KZN? Who do you think should take this one? But I hear you leaning towards Mbali, if I'm listening to you carefully.
Okay, KZN only.
Well, the two leaders, both Mbali as well as John Steenhuisen, reign from that province. What are you, as a young person from KwaZulu-Natal, thinking? Who should be the leader of the DA?
Mbali Ntuli, she will win it.
Well, there you have it, Tembelani. Some of the views, yes. Yes, Tembelani?
Yes, I've said Mbali Ntuli is going to make it.
Is it? Okay, no, thank you very much there. Tembelani speaking to us from KZN. Desiree, the phone lines obviously are ringing off the hook. People want to have their say with regards to this. I believe that we've got another caller on the line as well.
Kamachalo Shezi, very good afternoon to you. Your thoughts this afternoon?
Thank you, Desiree. The Congress showed the federalism within the Democratic Alliance. Most importantly, what stood out is their economic justice policy. I think the race for the leadership will point out exactly whether in governments that they tend to govern, and later in local municipalities, whether this economic justice policy will be well implemented to create jobs and opportunities for those who otherwise haven't had opportunities.
How do you think they're going to, push forward those opportunities. Thabiso was saying just now that the youth component of the Democratic Alliance is pushing for higher qualifications for the most junior of positions. So how do we balance this out?
I think we need to note that cadre deployment has occurred in terms of service delivery. So having people who are well positioned in terms of knowledge and skills and qualified, I think qualifications are much more important. We've seen a vast number of young South Africans obtaining qualifications, enhancing also private sector, strengthening private sector. It's about time, I think, we pull those young people into the public sector to strengthen the state's delivery of services. So I think the call by Leolo is much needed and necessary.
Thanks for your thoughts.
Well, let's go now to Thando Mlaba in Ulundi. Thando, welcome to the program on SA Today. The agenda, in fact, SABC News special broadcast. And put it that way, SA Today starts in a couple of minutes. I just joined you on Desiree's program for now. Speak to me, Thando. We've heard some, in particular the youth right now, speaking about the economics that they want to speak to them with regards to their qualifications. They're not getting jobs. You heard from the youth report from the DA saying a lot of youth have master's degrees, but they go and apply for personal assistant positions. What are your thoughts? What are you expecting? What do you want from the new leader? Thando, are you there? I think we've lost Thando there. We'll try and regain that line. Senzo Ndlovu, I think, is on the line now. Thando's line dropped. Senzo Ndlovu. Senzo, welcome to the program. Speak to me. We try and get voices and thoughts of everyone basically who's been watching for the outcome of this DA Congress. What are your thoughts? What do you feel that the new leader should be, if you have any feelings on that, or in general, how do you think it's gone?
I so wish Mbali Ntuli are winning, but I don't see she's winning because the majority of us want to be led by the black people. So, but I wish for her to win.
You say the majority of white people want to be led, do not want to be led by Mbali. That's what you're saying. From gathering from what has been said by John Steenhuisen, the interim leader, he's saying it's time for change. It's time for, they've left or broken the shackles of last year and everything that's gone by. He's calling for an inclusive democratic alliance. Do you think he's just, whispering to those other people and not yourself as a black person?
No, I don't see that is going to work, because I don't see that, to be honestly, I don't see that is going to work, honestly. But
why not?
I saw, because majority of white people, they don't want to be led by black people. So that's a fact, but that's a fact.
Apologies. In fact, thank you very much for that call. And unfortunately, we're going to have to. I think the line is not too bad. It's not too good. Apologies for that. Desiree, I think Thando Mlaba, our initial caller, is back online.
Absolutely, but just a reminder to all of our viewers that this is a special SABC News broadcast as we look ahead to an announcement any time now by the Democratic Alliance of their new leadership. Thando, what's on your mind as we look ahead to this announcement?
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, good afternoon, you, ma'am, and greeting viewers at home. I think Mbali Ntuli must win this election. The reason why I'm saying Mbali Ntuli because she's black, and number two, she's a female. Kuba bekuyimina bengizocela noma advise ama-delegate bevota izolo bengizocela ukuthi okay, they must vote for Mbali Ntuli ngoba number one, uyakhumbula ukuthi these positions avotelwayo ama-positions ikakhulukazi ajwayele ukuphatha abantu kumaqembu amaningi aphethe abantu besilisa. So I think ukufaka Mbali Ntuli as a female aphathe iqembu nalokho kuzobaletha abantu ukuthi okay, maybe iqembu lizama enye into mhlambe noma lizama ushintsho actually address lento ye gender inequalities, and number two, just because she's a female, and number two, just because she's black, abantu abaningi isikhathi esiningi from ikakhulukazi KwaZulu-Natal, they do trust omnyama, So I think Mbali Ntuli is most perfect for this position.
Thando, ake ngibuze la Thando, abantu abaningi bazothi mhlambe uMbali Ntuli usemncane iminyaka engama-33 mhlambe akakulungeli ukuphatha iqembu elifana njenge-DA. Sikhumbula ukuthi akusiyo wokuqala umuntu osifazana ukuphatha iqembu, mhlambe singathi Helen Zille omunye wabo, kodwa ke ngaphambilini abaholi abafana noMusi Mayimani kanye noLindo Mazibuko bebancane bahluleka noma ngithi abasekho leqembu. Abantu abaningi bangathi mhlambe ingakho kumele kube uJohn Steenhuisen uqhubekayo, mhlambe uMbali angene ikhundleni ezithile eziphezulu phambi kokuthi mhlambe ke aye afune iqembu. Ucabanga ngalokho?
Okay, but esikwaziyo bengathi ukuthi yes yena usesemncane but kukhona okwaziyo okwenzakala eqembini. Obviously belokho ekhona eqembini uyazi izinto ezenzakala eqembini, so unazo lezo zinto ke ngisho ukuthi amncane but still aqhubeke abethula ukusizakala khona lapho, but akukho mayelana nalokho ngokwami. Kuya ngami kumayelana nokuthi abantu laba bavota, because it's not only about ama-delegates laba bevota izola out 2000 or over 2000, but it's about the entire people ukuthi ukubuyisa ivoti eqembini le-DA. So ukuba khona uMbali Ntuli kulami represent umuntu omnyama, of which are the majority wabantu abavotayo. Number 2, uphinde ku-address this thing gender inequality. Yeah, I know vele unalento ukuthi sesemncane but asazi to start in. Let's just give her a chance, then sibone to start in.
Thando Mlaba, thank you very much, Baba. Siyabonga.
All right, thank you. All right.
I know we're looking at calls at the moment, but there's also a comment on social media. Roadwix Sequera saying, echoing Tando's sentiments, Tabiso, saying, I want Mbali to win, but in brackets, not that it will make much difference. It's not easy, but I think Steenhuisen will win, and that has been the general sentiment. Let's now cross over to Muzi Ntuli, who's also calling from KZN. Muzi, are you related to Mbali by any chance?
No, it's just a similar surname.
Tell us what's on your mind.
I don't have a problem with Mbali. Mbali is my sister, but the fact that she's still young, I agree with other comrades who say Mbali is brilliant. Yes, she's brilliant, but when it comes to this position, I think she needs to learn more, because if you count her age, that will show you she's still young, and she needs more experience, because I think I'm not sure whether she was involved in national politics, so that will be more a problem into DA if they can elect her. But if they can, we don't have a problem with that. But I think she still needs more experience to lead the party. If you can compare with the previous leaders like Musi Mayimani and Lindy Mazibuko, they tried, but yes, they failed. Kungaba buhlungu, but kube njalo uma ngabe uzobuka inama challenges amaningi, so mangabe uzoficwa umuntu omncane like uMbali sizombona eqhasha manje uma ngathiwa kwenzekile wa-11, so I'm not sure ngempela ukuthi she's ready to lead the DA. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, as I try to wrap up the agenda segment of the SABC News, Tabiso, those are our callers today. Quite frankly, the age argument doesn't crack it for me, because there's like a 10-year age difference between them. So essentially, if John was in the ANC, he'd still be considered a youth. In fact,
that was one of the I think proposals that came in yesterday with the amendment of the Constitution of the Democratic Alliance to try and move the so-called youth league. Youth league age to about 35, and we've always had this conversation about who and what constitutes a youth league. A lot of people, and I hear, in fact, the calls that are coming in, most of them from KZN, and I think KwaZulu-Natal split down the middle, because, as I said earlier, both these leaders of the DA are from the same province, but the question is then, is that age gap? Mr. Ntuli, they're saying that he believes that Mbali is too young. On the other hand, other callers saying, look, why not? Let somebody come in, fresh blood, so to speak, new ideas, because it's always been the argument, isn't it? Do you take the old head, or do you take somebody new to breathe in fresh air within the party?
And as we look ahead to the announcement any time after 2, I'm going to leave you to do the announcement. Let's just remind our viewers that the lines are closed for now. You're welcome to call in once again immediately after the announcement has been made.
Yeah, indeed. We're taking the announcement around 2:20, but at the top of the hour, we'll be crossing to our reporters to have a chat with them and how they view it and how they think that this has gone. It's been a first of many. The first Congress that I've seen online, and by what we're looking at and picking up, everything's run smoothly so far.
Absolutely.
Could this be something for the future?
Absolutely. Well, with that, it's a goodbye from me.